King, Republican from Iowa. He's a member of the Tea Party caucus and one person kind of leading the charge to repeal health care reform. Sir, good to have you back on An American Morning so soon. Just had you on last week. We appreciate you being back. Let me start with this, a new era of civility. This idea is starting to gain some steam. The idea of Republicans and Democrats not splitting up, sitting on two different sides during the State of the Union. Can you tell me at this moment, are you committed to sitting next to a Democrat during the State of the Union?
It's actually really hard to find a seat during the State of the Union address, so I first have to commit myself to finding a seat. And then at that point, I'll be happy to sit next to whomever has claimed the seats on either side of me. I know that Nancy Pelosi once deployed some of her people to be scattered across the chamber during a State of the Union address, and it seemed a little odd. But one of the American pastimes is watching the crowd and seeing who starts the standing ovations and who stands. So I hope that doesn't get mixed up during the State of the Union address.
Now, wait a minute, Congressman King. You said that's an American pastime, but a lot of people call it ridiculous. And it shows the split as clearly as you can see it when you see Republicans standing up and Democrats sitting on their hands and vice versa. And I know this is strictly symbolic, but still, it doesn't sound like something you want to commit to.
Oh, I just don't want to make that promise, but it's fine with me. I'm happy to work with Democrats. In fact, I've been in the majority, minority, and now back in the majority, and I've made a pledge to some of my Democrat friends that I'm going to be nicer to them as minority members than I think I have been as a minority member in the past. That's going to help. The experience of being in the minority, I think, is going to help us in the majority, and I'll commit to that. I'm just not sure where I'm going to sit.
We will hold you to that, what you just said, being nicer to the minority now. Sir, let's move on now to health care, which you're going to take up today, a repeal. Now, describe for me, because I've had a hard time finding someone who could, describe for me a scenario where you would see President Obama signing into law a repeal of his signature health care reform bill.
I can describe the scenario, but it actually doesn't include President Obama's signature.
Okay.
And this is a strategy that I laid out clear last March, and on the very day that I drafted the repeal, which was the day that it passed the House in March of last year. And it works this way. We first have to pass a repeal in the House with a new Republican majority, and then shut off the funding to implement or enforce Obamacare in our appropriations bills throughout 2011 and 2012. Then, 2012, we elect a president who hopefully runs on the platform, among them being to sign the repeal of Obamacare. I expect, and actually my scenario is, the new president standing at the West Portico of the Capitol, January 20th, 2013, taking the oath of office, and then signing the repeal right there. That's my scenario, and I'm working towards that.
Representative King, that is a heck of a scenario. You're talking about years down the road, and you're trying to do this with the hope that there is going to be enough Republican seats picked up in the Senate, first of all, during the next election, but also that there'll be a different party in the White House. So that's awfully ambitious of you, don't you think?
Well, it has to be ambitious, but no scenario that could be laid out by anyone to repeal Obamacare could be laid out without including this vote that we start the debate today and we'll vote on tomorrow to repeal it in the House. And additionally, there are 23 Democrats in the Senate that are up for re-election. Some of them know already that if they have a vote on repeal of Obamacare, they will vote to repeal it. And I'll predict that if we can get a vote in the Senate, the Obamacare will be repealed in the Senate, and that would put the bill on the president's desk.
Sir, to wrap up here, and I see the scenario you laid out, however ambitious it may be. But a lot of Americans, it's a big bill, but they understand some smaller points of it. Now, some of those smaller points, and let me just ask you I'm going to tick these off. Do you have any problem with children with pre-existing conditions being covered?
I'm not a supporter of that. Some Republicans, well, excuse me, pre-existing conditions, yes.
Yeah, okay.
I anticipated a different question, actually, TJ,
so, okay.
and I'll confess to that. But that pre-existing condition component of that can be dealt with by the states with federal help in a constitutional way. So I have a different method. We should fix it, though.
But you want to keep that. You want to keep college students staying on until 26 on their parents' insurance.
That's the one I anticipated. I don't support that. Some Republicans do.
Okay.
I think that I wanted my kids to grow up.
Okay. Well, a lot of people are in favor of that, but good to have you on the record there. Also, you can't be dropped because you're sick. You want to keep that in there as well.
I agree with that, and when you buy a health insurance policy, we can't have the insurance company just arbitrarily dropping people off. I think that should be regulated, though, by the states, not the federal government, but I think that's a good policy.
And the last one, in 2014, that you can't be refused coverage for pre-existing conditions. Would you like to see that stay as well?
Not from the federal level, but again from the states. And in Iowa, we have a high-risk pool. We support those premiums with tax dollars. The federal government can support that. But I don't think that we should do that blanket across the country because people won't buy insurance until they get sick, unless, of course, you have the individual mandate. and that's the one that I object to the most. That has to go, and if it has to go, the rest of the policy can't be sustained.
Well, Representative King, we will watch and see what happens. We're going to hold you to that civility. You said you're going to be nicer to the Democrats. We would love to see that. And we will, sir, keep a close eye to see where you find a seat during...
And I'll always be nice to you, TJ.
Well, we appreciate that. Really, we appreciate you being a guest here on American Morning. I'm sure we'll run into you again.
Thank you.